Cousin Billy would take me walking. Out through the backyard we go walking. Then he look into my eyes. Lord knows to my...
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Matt Dillhoney. Joining me this week, Russell Glasser.
Hi, folks.
Is it Maury?
Oh, yeah. Hi.
How you doing, Maury?
Just fine. I'm really enjoying your program there. I must start out to say that I am a Christian, but look, you guys have put the time, the effort, the energy, and it's obvious to me that you are very, you're solid in analyzing these things and so forth. And there's a million things I'd love to talk to you about, but...
we'll call in next week, too.
Is that, about the moral issue. Your compadre there described that pretty well. You can use reason and you can use logic and that sort of thing. But ultimately, then you would have to put this in the most succinct way I can. People that go out and commit horrible, terrible deeds, they can say that they're, hey, it's okay. Everything is okay.
They can say that, but
to themselves they can't.
But they don't. The thing is that ethics and morals didn't evolve in a vacuum. They're the product of a cooperative society. Basically, and you can look at this as in the simplest forms, is I'd rather not have my stuff stolen or be killed. And I found some other people who'd rather not have their stuff stolen or be killed. So we've gotten together and we've agreed that those things are bad. We're going to oppose them and we're going to establish laws that deal with people who violate them. It doesn't matter if somebody comes along and kills somebody and then says, well, by my moral code, it's right. That's irrelevant. You're living in our society, and in order to do that, you need to abide by these rules. I'm not making a claim that there is some absolute intrinsic right, just because we all seem, most of us would instantly say that, beating a little child to death is morally wrong.
But how can you say morally wrong? It's wrong.
Okay, it's wrong. It's ethically wrong. I'm making the determination that it's wrong.
It's also socially wrong is part of the issue.
Well,
I read an interesting summary of Eastern morality versus Western morality in sort of a philosophy book one time. It was in the form of a dialogue where somebody whose title is moralist comes up to a guy who's a Taoist, and the moralist says, I believe that there are absolute standards of right and wrong. The Taoist says, yeah, me too. The moralist says, okay, what is your highest moral principle? And the Taoist says, everybody has the right to do whatever they want. So the moralist says, that's horrible. Does that mean that somebody has the right to kill somebody else? And the Taoist says, well, yeah, the guy has the right to kill somebody, and then the police have the right to come and arrest them, and the judge has the right to sentence him to death.
I see.
When I look at this in kind of in terms that the moral issue comes up quite a bit. When I mentioned before that we may all instinctively almost come to the conclusion that killing is wrong. You don't have to think too much about it, not because there's some divine absolute moral authority that's written the code in our hearts. It's because everybody, by virtue of being alive, has an understanding of the value of that life and why they don't want it lost. Now, I happen to believe that in some sense there is an absolute moral truth. And I got this primarily after discussion with Dennis Lubay, who hosts the nonprofit show with us. We talked about this quite a bit, and I agree with him. In the pantheon of possible actions one could take for any given situation, some are better and some are worse, which means some of them are either the best possible action, and I'm not oversimplifying it. It may be best for the individual, it may be best for society, but somewhere when we go through and we make the valuation of how to weight these things, some of these actions come out at the high end of the scale. They would be either the moral absolutes or as close as we can ever possibly come. And I think that what we're doing as a society is constantly growing and evolving our morals hopefully towards that that better outcome, that more absolute truth. And I think that this is nowhere any clearer than when we look at the history of religions in particular, Christianity specifically, there have been plenty of things even 50 or 100 years ago that preachers and the Bible would say were morally correct or not morally wrong, and yet we oppose them. And that could be anything from short skirts to slavery.
Well, I'm sure you've heard, the saying that Christians are not perfect, and that's why they go to church, right?
Yes.
And
no, hang on. Christians, their book supports slavery, tells you exactly how much to pay for slaves, how to treat them, how to drive a spike through their ear in order to mark them, how to give them a bride that they'll fall in love with so that when it's time to let them go free, you get to trap them.
I know. I've read Leviticus. I mean, you have to, stone people to death.
It's not just Leviticus. Jesus advocates slaves obeying their masters as well. You show me one point where Jesus comes out and says slavery, the owning of another human being, is morally incorrect. He never says it.
Okay.